What up, friends? I am a diamond, and today we're going to be reviewing Turnstile's newest album, Glow On. This is the third album by hardcore punk band Turnstile, following their 2018 album Time and Space. Admittedly, this was actually my introduction to the band. However, after going back and listening to the previous records in their discography, it was pretty fun to see their evolution from the more normal hardcore punk stuff that they were working with before, to the more melodic and shoegazy style of punk that we're seeing here. Their gamble with a new sound was a success. They rarely sacrificed their intensity, but they gained some new instrumentation to up the variety in all of the sounds of the record. It also keeps hold of that catchiness that just makes you want to come back for more. With Mystery, you can't ask for a better opener, let's be honest. From that opening synth to the punch of the first riff, this track hypes you up like no other. It's super tight instrumentally, with a good balance of guitar and bass, along with a good balance of more melodic and shouted vocals too. This continues into the pre-chorus, giving us a bit of a breather to balance the more light and heavy punk sounds. There's also a super fun solo near the end, giving you the drive to relate to the lyrics about how life is short and you just gotta fucking push forward and have fun while you can. With Blackout, we're traversing the more hardcore sounds more. It has that super solid main riff while also having some pretty intricate drumming rearing its head up every so often. The guitar and synth meld in harmony during that fantastic chorus, and then we get a fucking cowbell solo before we lead into the classic post-hardcore breakdown. This track is just pure fun, fitting the theatrics of just being at a show and tearing shit up. Don't Play is another fast-paced banger. The track is pretty slick with it too, combining those background vocals and claps in a way that sounds engaging while not sounding cliche. The guitar solo almost has this thrash sound to it, which shows just how easily they can combine all these different genres. The light synth on the chorus is also super catchy and complements the heavier instrumentation overall pretty well. Underwater Boy is a noticeable lighter moment on the record, kind of opting for the melodic stylings of maybe the lighter tracks on Touche Amore's Stage 4, or maybe even Polyphia's New Levels, New Devils. Very melodic guitars and airy vocals drift over this instrumental really well, and the chorus kind of takes a backseat to the verses, in my opinion. It sort of feels like a combination of their melodic hardcore influences and shoegaze, making for a pretty dreamy atmosphere. This sort of dreamy nature of the track also really fits the lyrics of sort of struggling through life and wondering if there's a heaven at the end of it all. And it kind of also fits the speaker's struggle with that. With Holiday, don't let that opening fool you. This is a certified bop. The hardcore influences are out in full force, creating the most head-banging track out there. There's something about the bounce in that guitar and the drums that just give this song a killer energy, and this almost Beastie Boys styled shouted vocals, they just invoke that vibe even more. There's also a great calm before the storm moment with that isolated bridge before we get into that crazy breakdown. This is probably one of my favorite tracks on the record. Fly Again is another really good track, and I love that piano intro. It really gives the song its own identity. It also has a bit more of a hardcore influence here, shaking things up a bit before we get back to the more punky sounding songs on the record. That chorus is hype as fuck, and it's a great contrast to the more melodic sound on the verses. Awesome guitar solo on this track, and I really like that's almost post-punky guitar tone on it too. The vocals are varied and carry that intensity that you want from a track like this, especially when the lyrics are talking about sort of failing to live up to expectations. The build up to that outro is also fantastic, and this is just another one of my favorites too. Alien Love Call, however, is a bit of a lull in the track list, if I'm being honest. It's not a bad track per se, but the weight of the instrumental is seriously lacking compared to pretty much every other song on this album. It leans a bit too much into the vibey and melodic side of their newfound sound, and the vocals to me don't sound as good here compared to some of the other tracks. It's a bit repetitive as well, but I will say it doesn't overstay its welcome, and it is pretty unique for the record at least. Dance Off kind of sounds like a slicker continuation of the previous track Wild World. The chorus has the funky edge to it, and I like the addition of the claps to give it that dance vibe that the title suggests. It almost has Rage Against the Machine influences here and there, especially with that sort of glitchy and off-kilter guitar that's going on in the bridge. It sounds like it was played by Tom Morello himself. It has its own identity without sacrificing its sound, and I think the overall weirdness to the track kind of fits the lyrics about wanting to get away from all the crazy shit that's going on in the world today. With New World Design, we have a bit of a math rock guitar pattern here, also some pretty interesting vocal as well. It has a very melodic sound while also having a sort of anthemic cadence during the chorus. It's another track that's pretty unique and showcases how Turnstile can combine many different genres of rock and punk in a way that sounds natural and authentic. Lonely Desires is a pretty good closing track, I will say. It's a very driving track with Blood Orange kind of leading us in, and then we get Turnstile kind of leading us out. There's some sweet little ambient synths and riffs that are added for flourish, and I kind of like how they pull out the instrumental and then bring it in again. It adds that sort of airy and dreamlike atmosphere. And then throughout the rest of the track, until we get to the end, they constantly do that pull in and pull out. And I like that sort of pulsing effect that it has. I think it sort of encapsulates the sort of more experimental nature of the album overall when it comes to punk. So I thought that was pretty cool. I will say that it's not really an incredible song on its own. It really only works in the context of the record, and I don't think I would put it on outside of listening to the record. But, you know, it does its job. Overall, I think this is a really fun project that showcases how you can sort of experiment with punk music without changing the core tenets of punk music. It has a surprising amount of variety for the genre and great performances all around. It's also quick and respects your time. It doesn't stay on specific instrumentals for too long, and it keeps you engaged by just keeping shit going. Occasionally, it can sound a bit like the genre as usual, most notably on songs like Endless, Wild World, TLC, and No Surprise, but the songs are still fun in their own right and don't really detract from the vibe at all. They do still keep up the energy of the album, even if they're not the most unique things out there. All in all, I'm feeling a decent 8 on Turnstile's Glow On. This was fun. Of course, we do have to talk about album covers on this show, and it's a pretty simple one, but it's a pretty effective one too. The sort of wistful and whimsical white and pink really matches that sort of dreamlike aesthetic of the instrumentals with those synths. It doesn't really evoke the post-hardcore side of things or the hardcore punk side of things, but I do think it shows an evolution compared to their other albums, which had more traditional punk album covers. Of course, those are just my thoughts about the new Turnstile album. What do you guys think? Did you like their new experimentation, or would you rather them go back to just their normal hardcore punk sounds? Let me know. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Ring the bell to keep me glowing, and until the next one, farewell.